For those attending online, if you're a visiting Rotarian or a guest of a Rotarian, please enter your name in the chat box located in the center of the bottom of the screen so that we can recognize you later. If you have comments on what to ask a question of the speaker, please use the chat box. We recommend you view today's meeting using speaker view located in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Now for our thought of the day, I welcome Rotarian Anna Marie Jones.
Thank you, President Mary. Hello, fellow Rotarians and guests, both here and online. I selected 2 quotes today in celebration of how much it means that we are coming back together as a united community. Quote number 1. The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. Coretta Scott King. And number 2. Community is much more than belonging to something. It's about doing something together that makes belonging matter. By Brian Solis. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna Marie, for that inspiring thought. Okay, but everybody please join me in reciting the Rotary Vision Statement. Together, we see a world. There we go. Oh. If not, how about, I'll go. Together, there we go. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Okay. Guests are welcome to visit our club. Past President Ed Gillen and past District Governor, do we have any visiting Rotarian?
President Mary, I am despondent to have to report that we have no visiting Rotarians today, unless I missed one. I guess not. Thank you.
All right.
I usually use my headphones.
We'll give you another opportunity next week. How's that?
I appreciate that. Thank
You
you.
don't have speakers.
Start video.
All right, Rotarians,
You have to use your headphones. You don't have speakers.
Yeah,
and introduce yourself, your occupation, and your guests.
I wanted you to hear it. I don't have speakers, so you can't hear it.
Dumb. Where's your ears?
I unplugged them back there, so.
Plug them in.
Pinckney
Your
Foundation.
computer should have sound.
I have 3
It
guests here.
should, I know. It doesn't, apparently.
All right, this is Preston Pinckney with the Pinckney Foundation and the Ace Kids Golf Program. It's good seeing everybody. I would like to introduce Brett from Congresswoman Barbara Lee's office. He's here today. And Kathy Marty, who's part of our team. She's a very familiar face with everybody. And Palo Walker, who's also part of our board. He's a fundraiser extraordinaire, and he's here, and he recognizes a lot of you guys as well.
We have one in the back, Julie Fox.
Good afternoon, President Mary, fellow Rotarians and guests. Today, Julie Fox, retired, and today my guest is my husband, Justin Fox. Please give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
Any more? Okay, thank you. I want to inform you that the chocolate bake-off have been rescheduled to May 11th in celebration of Mother's Day, but Julia Fox didn't get that news, so she went ahead and baked a Valentine cake back there. So thank you, Julia. And I think she paid a second cake in case you didn't have enough cake. So we'll wait for Julie to do it again on Mother's Day. All right. Seth Butler, would you come and join me up here, podium? Okay. Okay, as many of some of you might know, we have the so-called Dan Lazar Good Job Award, which is awarded annually in June to an Oakland Rotarian that demonstrates a commitment to the club and who played an integral role to support the president in their year. Today, we are launching a new recognition award, the Rotary Club of Oakland Rotary Hero Award. The spirit of this award is to highlight a Rotarian that has done something extraordinary, either personally, professionally, or in service to the club. So since so many of you have done service within the club and outside of the club, it is important that we acknowledge you. So if you know of someone that deserves to be recognized, please let me know and we will recognize them sometime periodically throughout the year. All Rotarians with this recognition will be presented with a unique Rotary pin. We have a slide of what the pin looked like. Well, today we are recognizing a Rotarian who has been very generous with his time and his talent. Seth Butler has been the epitome of a model Rotarian, having been a past president. He's the current chairing the president of the Oakland Rotary Endowment. And outside the club, he's busy serving on several nonprofit boards, including the Port of Oakland Commissioner. Seth founded the Seth Oakland Family, the Seth Butler Family Foundation, and has generously contributed to several organizations serving Oakland's Black and Brown youth, often providing scholarships. I know that he provided scholarship Oakland Promise as well. Most recently, the foundation provided critical capital funding for the Hidden Genius Project to acquire a 21,000 square foot office building just in downtown near 14th and Franklin Street, and house other youth serving nonprofit organizations that were getting displaced before the pandemic with skyrocketing high rent in the downtown area. The Hidden Genius Project new building will house offices for Black-led organizations such as Team Inc., Represent Ed Leadership, and Oakland Natives Give Back. The second floor of the 4-story building will make way for local community organization workspace, and the Ubuntu Center is an innovative community hub for youth. We will hear more about this Hidden Genius Project next week because they're going to be our next week's speaker. So next slide. So at the December ribbon cutting ceremony, Seth, this is the pin. This is what the pin looks like. It's the oak for someone who's sturdy and strong and silent. Okay, so at the December ribbon cutting ceremony, Seth was quoted as says, "I am a proud supporter of the Hidden Genius Project. We are aligned with our collective mission to provide resources to youth of color with the goal of preparing them for success to advance and excel in technology and entrepreneurship." Seth comes from a humblest of beginning in Missouri. Seth credit his mother for keeping him firmly grounded by emphasizing the importance of education, giving back to the community, and reminding him that material possession is not a measure of happiness and success. We are honored to have Seth as a longtime member of this club and for everything he does to the local community and the first recipient of this award. So here's your pen. Sis, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, well, thank you, President Mary, for the honor of having the first Quiet Rotarian Award. I guess that means I shouldn't have to say too much, but I will say a few things. First, the name of my foundation is the Sestra, T-R-A, Butner Family Foundation. The T-R-A is my real name, Sestra, but the capital T-R-A in the spelling of it stands for Teresa, my wife, Raquel, my daughter, first daughter, and Andrea, my second daughter. Just happens to be my same name. We are committed to giving to this community that has given so much to us. And as my mom would always say, your message of success is not what you gain materially, but how you give back to the community that you came from. And I've always lived by that. And I was able to, fortunate enough to be quite successful and gain a little money to fund my foundation to be able to do that right here in Oakland. And finally, I'd like to say that the Hidden Genius Project is just one example of what we want to try to do as we expand ourselves across Oakland to every community to try to help the Black and brown kids get educated as they should be. Tom Lamone, President-elect Tom Lamone, I should call you, interviewed me for this, and I was quite taken aback by the fact that, Mary, you decided to give the first of these awards to me. But I want to say it's founded in the Rotary and what Rotary does. And I always loved the adage the Rotary says, and was part of my theme for my presidential year, service above self. That's what we have to do. Thank you so much.
Ruth Stowe. Would you give him a mic, her a mic?
President Mary, I'd like to ring the bell for Seth Butner and all he contributes to our community.
Right. Ruth Stowe.
Merlin Edwards, I'd like to ring the bell for Seth.
Marilyn Edwards. Will, is that Will Hobbs? Will Hobbs. Joe Parrott. Pam Clausen. Joe Garaka. And Pat Williams. Deep and Deep. Trish Connor, yeah. Mary Rutzer. Carrie Hamill.
Fred Morse.
Fred Morse, I guess. Gary Flaxman, Dudley Thompson. Lima Link. Let's see, I'm sorry. Shannon Hackley, Rick Askin. I'm sorry, was it? And then I'm gonna do Mary Jeong, Tom Limon,
Preston Pinckney.
Preston Pinckney. Hang on a second. Ralph Scar. Did I miss anybody? Great. Thank you. I said sure success, appreciate that.
President Mary, we have two on,
Tom Limon, you wave something?
Yeah, I don't know where he got his money, but.
Patricia Wells online? Grace Joycey Mack online? Isaac Cost Reese. Thank you. All right. Linda Chu. Okay. I'm sorry.
And ORE thanks you all for that donation. We appreciate it, and we will put it to good use for the Oakland Rotary Endowment. Thank you.
All right. TK Committee Chair John Holgram, could you tell us about a book packing and book delivery project?
Greetings, everyone. I have the pleasure of being the chairperson of Oakland Rotary's Kidner Prep Committee. For those who you don't know, we have provided support for many years to transitional kindergarten classes in Oakland, both OUSD and charter schools. For many years, we have had a book project where in the summertime, we provide kids with a bag of 6 books that they can use in the summertime to continue their learning. Based on information we've gotten from TK teachers and from early education specialists, it's been determined that we're going to change up our plan this year and provide the books to the kids during the year. That way, the books can be used with the teacher coordination to provide a better learning experience, or what we expect will be a better learning experience. To that end, our first delivery of books are going to be 3 deliveries of 2 books. The first one is happening next week. Our very active and dedicated committee is meeting tomorrow and Saturday to do the book packing. Many of you have participated in that in the past. It's quite a job, but since we're doing it in 3 tranches this year, it's going to be more manageable. What we need help with is delivering the books. The books will be produced, put in manageably sized boxes with not the high weight that we've had in the past. Each book, thanks to past President Dudley, will have, you can't see this, but a label saying a gift from Rotary Club of Oakland #3. So our community will know how we are supporting our children as they start their learning careers. So what I'm asking all of you to do, and is there a slide up on this? I did send a slide, but I'm asking for, okay, I'm requesting help with delivering the books to these schools next week. So if anybody who's able to do that, deliver between 1 and 5 boxes of books, if you could send me an email and let me know that you're willing to do that, or if you're present here today, you can just come up to me after the meeting and let me know. But my email is Holmgren, my last name, .John K, pretty simple so far, @Gmail. You may have heard that's a very common email platform. Okay, holmgren.johnk@gmail.com. Please let me know if you're willing to do that, and we'll get the books out to the kids for a great learning experience. Thank you.
Okay, Mary Rutzer, what would you like us to know about Valentine's Day?
She's on a pedestal.
Thank you, President Mary II. I am happy to share some thoughts about February 14th. But first, a final reminder about the special event coming our way at next Thursday's meeting, the celebration of Oakland Rotary's Living Past Presidents. Our club has had 115 presidents since its inception, and mirabile dictu, about 31 of them are still alive and well. That suggests that becoming president of the Oakland Rotary Club is good for one's longevity. I'm further told that 27 past presidents will be in attendance here at the California Ballroom. 3 more will be attending by Zoom, and past President Linda Bosenecker, who will be airborne at the appointed hour, will be sending us her best wishes. Please feel free to come at 11:30 for a special reception for our luminaries. And please be advised that whether you are attending in person or by Zoom, the meeting itself will begin at 12:20 p.m., 10 minutes early. But here's the extra special draw for this event. It has often been said that there's nothing more dangerous at a Rotary meeting than giving a past president the microphone. It's true. It's true. It's happening right now. But at next Thursday's event, With two exceptions, our PPs will be seen but not heard. What could be better? Bring a guest, bring several. Okay, back to Valentine's Day. To prepare for this presentation, I of course did extensive research on the always reliable internet, including some quotes from that bastion of accuracy, history.com. Here's what I found. Valentine's Day allegedly is named after Saint Valentine, a 3rd century priest who came to an untimely end, namely beheading, when it was discovered that he was secretly marrying couples after an edict had gone out that young men in the Roman Empire were forbidden to marry. In his infinite wisdom, Emperor Claudius II decided that single men made better soldiers. You gotta love those emperors, always focusing on the problems of the day rather than the future of the population of the empire. In the ensuing centuries, no fewer than 3 Saint Valentines were canonized, all of them as martyrs, with slight variations in their stories. The common thread apparently is all represented a sympathetic, heroic, and romantic figure. The end result was that by the Middle Ages, Saint Valentine became one of the most popular saints in England and France. One story has it that Valentine's Day is celebrated in mid-February to commemorate the anniversary of Saint Valentine's death. But another line of thought, and the one that I find more compelling, is that the church decided to place Saint Valentine's feast day in the middle of February to Christianize the pagan celebration of Lupercalia, a holiday which always occurred at the Ides of February. Lupercalia was a fertility festival featuring animal sacrifices and the gentle slapping of Roman women with goat hide. Allegedly, the women welcomed the touch of the hides because they thought it would make them more fertile in the coming year. Really. Happily, despite its origins involving the whipping of women and the beheading of priests, by the Middle Ages and beyond, Valentine's Day became both secular and associated with romance. I would go on talking about the Victorians, etc., but I think my time is up. So this coming Tuesday, whether you stick with the greeting card or you opt for Instagram, I hope you all find some time to express I heart you to someone you care about. Have a lovely Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Mary, for the history of Valentine's Day. All right, Will Hobbs, could you tell us about an upcoming DEI event during Black History Month?
He is tiny.
Thank you, President Mary, and good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm here to answer, at least in part, the question, what has our DEI committee been up to? I think there's a slide that's supposed to be coming up. On February 23rd at the Asian Cultural Center in Chinatown here in Oakland, we will be hosting together with the Speakers Committee a follow-up from Evan Moss's meeting with us last fall. For those of you who were there, you know that Evan was a very compelling speaker and that we had lively discussion. And unfortunately, the scheduling of the meeting did not permit us to have a lengthy discussion. On February 23rd, we'll be meeting from 5:30 to 7 at the Asian Cultural Center, and there will be ample time for follow-on discussion and interaction with Evan. As well, there's a dinner at Peony's following the meeting. There are spaces for only 80 people to attend, so please invite your friends and go to the calendar link on the link on the calendar website calendar in order to register for the event. With only 80 seats, it's going to probably sell out quickly. Fred Morris, can you tell me how many seats there are? 80? Yes, that's correct, 80 seats. So Fred just proved that he was indeed listening. So please bear that in mind and sign up at your earliest opportunity and invite your guests. What I'm about to say to you is in a script that's on your tables. Today, the DEI committee offers the following fellowship moment designed to deepen our connection and understanding of each other as Rotarians and as fellow humans. please pair up with one other person at your table who you don't already know well. And if you know everyone well at your table, please pair up with someone at another table. And then take turns telling each other the story about your name, a short story about your name. The story can be anything, where you come from, how you got your name, what it's been like to have your name, what your name means, if there's any particular meaning associated with it. Anything that has meaning for you. You'll have 2 minutes for this opportunity. I'll be the timekeeper and I'll let you know when 2 minutes has expired. When you've paired up, please raise your hand so we'll have an idea that you indeed have found a partner to pair with.
Will,
Yes,
could you remind us what is the date of the event?
February 23rd,
February 23rd,
5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Asian Cultural Center.
February 23rd. Thank you, sir.
The 23rd, yes. So has everyone got a partner? Please start.
I'm not going to take it from some. Oh, okay, so this is a.
These are pitiful. Can you get Bluetooth on that? Because you can use my red earphones when I turn my bows on. But you know, when I have red earphones on my head.
I know the programs.
Yeah, you do. Can I have V-nuts?
Still go total. No, wait, and I'll still. Pretty much everything.
Why if they're gonna go bad? They're talking amongst themselves.
Talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
They are all white people.
Most of them. Let's go back there, he's a wealthy black guy. Black nation. You hear some of the past presidents and it's amazing.
Okay, folks, the 2 minutes is up. So if you're having fun and having an interesting conversation, I want to suggest to you that you resume it at the end of the meeting. We're going to get back on our schedule now.
They don't need to see me, I'll just. You can.
All right, did everyone have fun telling about how your names? Good. So I'm glad everybody had fun finding out how your name originated. All right. At this time, I'd like to welcome Professor Rika White-Soso, who will also introduce today's speaker.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. All right, we have an exciting speaker here today. It is Professor Christie Chung, who is teaching at Mills College at Northeastern University. She is the Associate Dean for Research, Scholarship, and Partnership, the Special Advisor to the Senior Vice President on DEI, Professor of Psychology, and the Director of Mills Cognitive Lab. Dr. Christie Chung is an award-winning academic leader, keynote speaker, and professor in cognitive psychology. Her main research interest is in emotional memory and aging, with a specific focus on the cross-cultural application of the positivity effect in memory. Dr. Chung directs the Mills Cognition Lab, where undergraduate students have the opportunity to conduct research studies that explore diverse factors that affect memory, such as age, culture, gender identity, and political beliefs. Oakland Rotary, let's give her a warm welcome being here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for inviting me today. Thank you, President Mary, and thank you for the introduction. I am so happy to be here and so happy to see all of you being supportive of each other, this community. I didn't know very much about the Oakland Rotary Club, even though I've lived in Oakland for about 15 and a half years now. But I'm so happy to be introduced to this community. And so like you just heard, I've been at Mills College for a little bit. It's been around 15 and a half years. And some of you here might know that Mills College actually went through a transition this past year. So we've been a women's college for 169 years in Oakland. But in 2022, July, we actually merged with Northeastern University, which is based in Boston. So we are now part of a really big global network of campuses. So if we could go to the next slide, I could show you a map of some of the campuses that we have. We actually have 14 campuses in this global network. And the Oakland campus is now one of the newest campuses in this global network. And like I said, our base is in Boston. So a lot of our colleagues actually work on Eastern time. So I wake up really early for my job now, just to connect with everyone around the world. We actually also have a campus in London. So if any of you would like to learn more about the system, I could talk about it after my talk. But the reason why I wanted to introduce this to you is because most of the work that I've done in memory and aging was actually done at Mills College, the Mills Cognition Lab that I started when I first came to Mills as an assistant professor in 2007. So I've been there for many years, built up my lab with the student support, research assistants that I have, and I have done a lot of work cross-culturally as well. So I was talking to many of you previous to my talk, and many of you asked me questions about the brain, about deficits that happen as we grow older. I actually want to focus on positives of aging today. So when you think about memory and aging, a lot of people think, oh, memory changes, memory declines. That's all pretty negative, right? But I think what you have heard just now in the introduction is that some of my work actually touches on the positives of memory. But before I do that, I actually want to do a little demonstration with all of you. Since you all have memories, right? I want you to think about a memory that you have of the Oakland Rotary Club. Could be anything, and you don't have to tell me. Could just think about it. Okay, so I'm not going to ask you to tell me that memory. So next slide, please. So some of you are probably thinking about positive memories, right? We have many of those. And some of you may have some negative memories too. Next slide. So the reason why I say this is because I want to focus on emotional memory today. So next slide. So, oh, I could look at the screen actually over here. So emotional memory oftentimes are remembered better than neutral memories or neutral information in general. So what we call this in cognitive psychology is an emotional enhancement effect. And the reason why I asked you to think of a memory of the Oakland Rotary Club is because very likely many of you brought to mind something that was emotional. Hopefully positive, right? I saw many of you being really supportive of each other. And I was actually telling President Mary that this is one of the best things for your brain. Social support, community, humor, all of that is really, really healthy for your brain. But what we know is that emotion enhances memory. That is called emotion enhancement effect. And as we look at the brain, as people grow older, there are changes. You know, those are things that we can't necessarily deny. But what we know is that the part of the brain that is used for emotional processing, which is the medial temporal lobe, and this is a lot of words, I know. Medial stands for middle. Temporal lobes are actually the two lobes right next to your ears on the side of your brain. And if you were to put your fingers 2 inches in, you would touch it. I know you can't do that, but you know, that's where it is. That's where the amygdala is. And the amygdala is the part of the brain that controls emotional processing. That part of the brain doesn't change very much as we grow older, meaning that emotional enhancement stays intact as we grow older. And many of you here probably would agree with me that emotional regulation actually becomes better as we grow older. And I actually saw that in the audience just now. You know, you were laughing with each other. There were just so few things that really bothered, you know, many of us here. And I think that is actually something that we learn through our life experiences, right? As we grow older, we find better ways to control our emotion. That's called emotional regulation. And that is partially because the brain actually doesn't change much in that particular site. Next slide. So these are just some pictures to show you that part of the brain. I'm a cognitive psychologist, and I actually did my postdoc at MIT in behavioral neuroscience. So I used to scan brains every day. So I'm very interested in exactly which part of the brain we're actually talking about. And just to give you some foundation, you can see that if you were to get a cross section of the brain, the middle part that is highlighted in the first picture, that's the medial temporal lobe. It's a really deep structure on the, you know, the two sides of your brain. We have two sides, two hemispheres. So when I say amygdala, you actually have two amygdalae, meaning that one on each side. And you can see in this picture, the amygdala is a little structure right next to a longer shaped structure called the hippocampus. So if you were to take the hippocampus out and put it on a specimen table, which is the second picture, it looks like a seahorse, right? It actually means seahorse in Greek. Hippocampus means seahorse in Greek. So that was how we used to name the different parts of the brain, how they look. And so this is a really important part of the brain because that's where memory is processed. So if you don't have a functional hippocampus, you won't remember anything. You won't remember what I'm saying right now, basically. So we have to have a functional hippocampus in order to make long-term memories. And I wanted to show you this because the amygdala is right next to the hippocampus, right? Meaning that they actually share the structure in the brain. So if you're processing emotional information with the amygdala and that activation spreads to the structure right next to it, which is the hippocampus, that makes emotional memory so much easier to remember, right? Because there's already biological activation there. So next slide. One more click. So this is just another view. So many ways to look at the brain. And like I said, I used to do brain scans. So there could be this slice, it could be this slice. But this is really just to show you the amygdala, as you see in that picture with the red dots, look like almonds. It actually means almond in Greek. So once again, that was how we used to name the different parts of the brain. So easy to remember, right? So these are the two parts of the brain that I want to highlight today. And the reason why I want to do that is because those parts don't change very much as we grow older. And I want to emphasize that because emotional memory has two parts to it. The first part is the emotional part that is really good as we grow older, it's intact. But the memory part is a little bit different because we do see some declines in episodic memory, for example, remembering specific information. But we see increases in semantic memory, which is memory for meaning, for words, for knowledge in the world. So there's definitely different types of memories out there. And I can say to you that I've done a lot of memory studies with young and older adults. Older adults always do better on vocabulary tests because you know more words, you just know more things in the world. And that is actually a part of memory that increases as we grow older. Okay, so next slide. So the big question for me, for basically all of my career as a professor is what actually happens with emotional memory? Let's just have an interesting slide here. Next slide. So the framework that I've used, throughout my time, starting at MIT as a postdoc and throughout my time here at Mills in Oakland, starting up my lab, is this theory called socio-emotional selectivity theory. It actually started at Stanford University by a professor named Laura Carstensen. And the reason why this is important is because it's a theory that brings together motivation research, cognitive research, and social psychology research, looking at how we actually view the world and how we view emotion as we approach an end. And I think aging is just a really good way for us to test this theory because aging is really the approaching of an end, which is death, right? When you think about it. So we have less and less time to live as we grow older. But what actually happens emotionally and cognitively? So the interesting thing about this study and this entire series of framework is that we find that when people approach an end, they tend to prioritize what's meaningful to them. And what's meaningful to them could be different from culture to culture. I see some of you nodding here because just think about, let's say, someone asking you, what would you like to do over the weekend? It may be a very different answer for different populations. Let's say I ask a young adult from my college, what would you like to do over the weekend? They may say, oh, I want to go meet my favorite author. I want to go to a concert. I want to experience the world. But if I were to ask a person who only has 2 more weeks to live, I think the answers would be very different. Right? And we have done that study with terminally ill patients. We have done that study with older adults. And we also have done studies with different people in different cultures. And what we find is that as people approach an end, they tend to prioritize people that they love a lot more than getting information that is brand new to them. So there's definitely some motivational changes there. And what we see in the cognitive world or the memory world, I'm really specific about memory in my research, is something called positivity effect, meaning that as people grow older, they tend to prioritize what's meaningful and positive to them, especially in the Western world. And I say that's because most of the studies that we started in this area started here in the United States. There were some that were done in Canada and the UK as well, but nevertheless, they're Western cultures. So when you start to think about that, I was actually a postdoc back when I first encountered this type of research. I wanted to know if this would be generalizable to the rest of the world. So if you take a look at the next slide, you can see some of the questions that I had. Is the positivity effect universal? Can we generalize this to different cultures? Okay, so next slide. So the reason why I thought about this is because growing up, I maybe a little background about myself. I'm from Hong Kong. I was born in Hong Kong. I went to school in England when I was young because Hong Kong was under British rule when I was a child. So I went to school in England and then went to school later, college at University of Toronto in Canada, before coming to the States for my graduate degrees and my postdoctoral training. So I've seen the world in many different ways, right? Through different views. And what I realized is that the aging stereotypes are different everywhere I go. And in fact, there are some cultures that really view aging as an exciting and positive stage of life. Other cultures may not be so welcoming of the aging population. So what we know is that in the Western world, we've done a lot of studies in this area. The stereotype is rather negative in the Western world. But when you think about the Eastern world, which is a little bit more collectivistic, a little bit more communal, we find mixed results. As you can see here, I'm citing a lot of different studies, and many of them have found either more positive results or more negative results or mixed results, basically. But that could be because they're looking at different things, different methods and so on. So that's why, I was, brought to this question of how do we actually bring this into the consideration of emotional regulation and emotional memory? So next slide. So throughout my years at Mills, I've done a lot of studies, cross-cultural studies, and I don't have time to tell you all about this. So if you are interested, you could always email me or we could talk about it afterwards. But basically what we did was we used a paradigm called the view of aging paradigm. Very simple paradigm. I could even do it with you right now, where we ask participants, young and older participants, to come up with 5 words or phrases that they could think of that's related to aging. I could give you a minute to think about this. What are 5 words or phrases that come to mind immediately for you?
Disrespect.
Handsome. Okay, yes. Okay, that's great. 2 positive words. That's really good. Wisdom. Good, good. Well, I'm really happy to hear these positive words, right? So when we did the study, we didn't get all positive words, as you could probably imagine. So we collected these data from different countries, different places within each country, and we put everything together. And on top of that, we also gave people an emotional memory test, which is really the core of the cognitive examination that we wanted to do. So this emotional memory test is also very simple. It's just a test with 30 pictures. 10 of them are positive, 10 are negative, and 10 are neutral. And what we did was just ask people to look at these pictures as if they're watching TV, and they would have to recall the pictures to us afterwards. And what we found is that depending on which culture people came from, they remember different pictures. And what we found was that in the Western world, when we started the study here in Oakland at Mills College, we found a positivity effect, meaning that older adults actually remembered more positive pictures than our younger population. And what we found is that this is actually a negativity bias of our younger generation. So I think some of you are nodding right now because you probably have observed that, right? When you talk to the younger population about issues, a lot of times the focus is on the negative, is on what you can't do. But as we grow older, there seems to be a more positive emphasis on what we can do. So in fact, that came out as a positivity effect in memory. But the interesting thing is when we brought the study to different cultures, we actually went to China, we went to Hong Kong, we also went to Afghanistan to do the study. We did not find the positivity effect. So that was interesting to us. So one thing that we thought was maybe because the view of aging was different. And we did find differences there too. The most positive view of aging that we found was actually in China. The older adults in China themselves viewed aging as the most positive, which was in fact somewhat surprising to us that the effect was so huge. So there were definitely differences in how culture viewed aging. But nevertheless, the patterns of emotional memory and view of aging were completely different and even completely separate. So they're actually controlled by different parts of the brain. But ultimately, what I want to bring to you, I don't have too much time to talk about my results, so I'm going to skip a few slides if possible. So maybe next slide. Oh, these are the pictures from the picture task, actually. So you can get a sense of what they look like. They're just objects, nothing too interesting, really. But the results, like I said, was that the Chinese adults had a really positive view of aging. Emotional memory was actually only observed in the United States. So I think I'll skip to the next slide and then more. skip a few more. I don't have too much time. This was another study we did at Afghanistan, and then one more. Okay, we can stop here. So basically what I said just now is that the Afghanistan participants and also some of the participants we tested in China and Hong Kong did not show a positivity effect. And what was the explanation for this? The main explanation that we found based on all of these studies is that the motivation was really to remember what was most meaningful and interesting, right, to the person who was actually conducting or doing that study at the time. And what we realized is that in different cultures, we actually view different things as meaningful. In Afghanistan, they went through a long run war. I know that when we did the study, it was 2014. So definitely in the middle of the war. I had a student who actually went back to Afghanistan. She is from Afghanistan herself and conducted the study, but it was a very dangerous situation at the time. So when she collected the data, she realized that people were focused on many different things. Both negative and positive information were meaningful. And because of that, they ended up remembering all of that. So the emotional processing was a lot more balanced in a way when you looked at the data, but it only meant that negative information was also very meaningful to them. So next slide. Oh, actually, one before this. Yes, this one. So basically, the concluding statement that I want to, give to you today is that culture could affect what we see as meaningful. And you could probably think of your own culture, or maybe, let's say you're bicultural, that's even a better example. Thinking about how different people view the world. It's a little bit different, right? You have different things that you think of as meaningful. And then based on that, we tend to remember different things. And that's why we see these types of different emotional patterns in memory. We saw a positivity effect here in the United States, but we didn't see it in other parts of the world. It doesn't mean that the brains are different, right, from different cultures. It just means that we're focusing on different things. There are certain things that are really important in a collectivistic culture that may not be so important in an individualistic culture. So those are some of the issues that we found and conclusions that we got from the series of experiments that we conducted from my lab. So now you may be wondering, so what's next, right? So the most important thing for my lab right now is to actually find a way to bring brain health information to more people, and specifically to immigrant population that may not speak English. So as you can probably tell, some of the information could be kind of complicated, right? Especially about the brain. It's somewhat mysterious even, because we didn't know too much about aging and memory. And even when I first started in this area about 20 years ago now as a college student, we knew very little about memory and aging. And that was why my professor wanted me to stay in this area, because we needed young people to get into the area, to do the research, to understand what actually happens. So the next step is to really find ways to spread the news of what actually happens as we grow older, what kind of things stay constant, what kind of things actually do decline, and how do we help older adults stay healthy, throughout their lives. So one thing that we're thinking of doing right now is to pair up with different organizations. And as you can tell, my title is actually Research, Scholarship, and Partnerships. So I work a lot with community partners, with organizations around us, to think of solutions to bring more of this important information to a broader audience, and especially to audiences that may not necessarily have the immediate access to the information. So that's the main core of my talk today. And I want to end with a quote. So age isn't important unless you are a cheese or a wine. So thank you so much for having me today. Lots of questions. Yes.
Thank you so much. Very,
Yes.
very interesting. I'm wondering if any of your topics include how community service and involvement in community service affects the emotional aging of any age, really?
Yes, that's a very good question. So not in my own research, but definitely there, I did one study where we found that social support is actually one of the most important predictor of happiness in aging. So I think that is included, within community service, but definitely there's a lot of studies in the area that has shown that it's really about a community being able to feel that you belong to a group that helps with emotional well-being, not just memory, but just basically emotional well-being, which is the basis of healthy cognition as we grow older. Yeah. Yep.
Yes, you mentioned, and I think it's common knowledge, that different parts of the brain have different purposes.
Yes.
How did scientists find out what part of the brain does what?
That's a very good question. I mean, we don't have to open up the brain to do the study anymore. In the past, they did. But, there are many, many ways. I mean, first, we have neuroimaging techniques, right? So I mentioned that I used to work at MIT and I used to scan brains. That means that I put people into an MRI machine and we take pictures of the brain. So what we could do is actually design a task for people to work on while they're inside the MRI machine. Actually, how many of you have been in an MRI before? Okay, so most people know what I'm talking about. But if you're scanning the brain, you have to be really still. So they make you wear a headgear, and then they scan the part of the brain while you're doing something. So for me, I would do a memory test. So let's say someone is watching a screen and we have them say, do you remember this? Yes or no? They press a button while they're in there. And then we record the activity within the brain. So we could look at the brain that way. And there are also, of course, animal models, right? There are some animals that have very similar brains to the human, much more simplified brains, but nevertheless similar structures. We could also do experiments that way. Yeah.
One last one.
No, I'm sorry, and yes, there's a time, but Professor Chung would be happy to maybe answer your question after this meeting. Okay, Professor Chung, thank you very much for that really interesting and scientific presentation about brains and aging. So I wanted to let you know that education is my area of focus for this year. The Rotary Club of Oakland is proud to partner with Oakland Promise to offer 8 $10,000 scholarship annually with mentorship. We are proud to support many of the first in their family to attend college. In recognition of your presentation today, Oakland Rotary will make a donation in your name to the Oakland Promise to support its kindergarten to college program for every child in our city. Thank you. Okay. Cedric Titus, could you tell us about next week's speaker? Somebody have a mic to him? He's not here. Okay, well then, since Will, you want to do it? Somebody give a mic to Will. Fred, do you have the mic? Okay, thank you. So next week, just so you didn't hear, Brandon Nicholson from the Hidden Genius that we talked about that says sponsor and help with the purchase of the building. He will be the guest speaker next week. So come again next week. So at this point, I'd like to thank Anna Marie for the thought for the day, John Hogan for the TK book and packing and delivery project, Mary Russer for informing us about Valentine's Day and the past president event next week, Will Hobbs for the upcoming announcement of Evan Moss and the DEI fellowship moment, Professor Ricka for introducing the speaker, Professor Chung for that inspiring presentation, So, and then Will for doing the teaser and the production date for managing the team. We have a question, Tom? Okay. Before you leave, remember to brush your lunch tray and put away your garbage and recycle bin at the back of the room. We have a special treat. Julie Fox made 2 cakes. Some of you ate one of the cake, but we have one whole cake that is intact for Valentine's Day, and we like to auction that cake off. Who would like to give me at least $25 for a cake? All right, okay, how about $35? Keep on going. How about $45? Keep on going. How about $50? Okay, about $60. $60, going once, going twice. So, to the gentleman, yes. All right, have a sweet Valentine cake. It's a beautiful cake. All right, so keep in mind, next week, we will have a packed meeting with a special programming honoring past president. So we will start the meeting early at 12:20. So please come to the ballroom at 12 p.m. We will have a special reception, and the meeting may go over a little bit just to give you a heads up, because we're gonna have 2 special events next week. So share, which means thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.